For years, I heard people preach about storytelling with photography. But for too many of these years, I had trouble grasping what these folks were talking about. My biggest problem was I didn't understand that this equation had two parts. The first part, the techniques a photographer uses to help tell their stories. And the second part, this is the story itself. This is who and what we photograph, and about conflict, desire, and challenge, often fueled by curiosity. Great visual storytelling with documentary photography combines these two parts. And in this video, I'll address both. And at the end, I'll share my number one tip that most photographers can use to level up their storytelling skills. My name is Sean. I've been a freelance photojournalist for more than 25 years. And for the last 10, working with folks like Getty Images, the Associated Press, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and many others, while also publishing regularly on my independent website at sotacitizen.com. I also self-publish photo zines and photo books. From the perspective of a photojournalist, the key challenge is to tell a story with as few photos as possible. And sometimes we only get one photo. We can do this by combining key elements of the story into a single frame. We aim to limit the number of photos used to tell a story because we humans have limited attention spans. And the power of the still photograph is its ability to tell a story in a single frame. That said, there's great power in using multiple photos to tell a story, and we get those chances as well. Let's jump into the first part of the equation, the story itself. This is where photographers identify who and what we're going to photograph. As documentary photographers, we don't create these stories, we find them. And as documentary photographers, this is a big and important part of the process. If you're a photojournalist, you may have a newsroom to help you out here. Over the years, I've learned to distinguish between a photo report and a photo story. I've learned that a photo story is a selection of photos with a mix of conflict, setting, character, plot, and/or theme. A photo report doesn't have those things. I've learned that storytelling is better suited for long-form projects where there is a beginning, middle, and end. For example, let's compare a group of photos of demonstrators at a protest and a group of photos following the experiences of an 82-year-old war veteran participating in his first protest. Which one of these sounds more like a photo report and which one sounds more like a photo story? But what if we only photograph the shoes of demonstrators at a protest? Or maybe only detail shots of their hands holding signs? Or maybe we add text or audio to our photos? Storytelling can be nuanced. Storytelling often involves conflict of some sort. We see this with themes like man versus man, man versus nature, man versus technology, man versus himself, and so on. And orbiting this conflict, we have characters, plot, and setting. And this is a good reason for photographers to learn about the creative writing process. In most stories, our character or characters want something, and there's some type of challenge in the way of them attaining it. Many photo stories are more effective not because of the photography involved, but more because of the thought process behind the story. Most stories follow a basic structure, and the most common structure has three parts where the conflict sits between a setup and a resolution. Most stories see some type of change or transformation taking place. Even if it's a character unable to reach a goal, their journey will change them. Now that we're done talking about the elements that make up a story, let's dive into the techniques that photographers can use to tell stories. If one photo is published, this is our lead photo. If multiple photos are published, one of them will appear first in a sequence and/or larger on a page. This is also normally our lead photo. Our lead photo also serves as a thumbnail and hook the viewer's attention. My typical goal capturing a lead photo is to include the main characters during an interesting moment with interesting composition and lighting. Other types of photos that can help us with our storytelling are scene setters, portraits, and detail shots. These are all exactly what they sound like. When making photos, put your camera near the ground or over your head. Climb stairs, walk up hills, use a drone or remotely triggered camera. This variety will keep the viewer wondering what they'll see next. This fuels curiosity and gives a visual rhythm to our story. We can also vary focal lengths, but keep in mind we can make wide, scene-setting shots using a telephoto lens, and we can make tight and detail shots using a wide focal length. Wide, medium, and telephoto lenses are independent of wide, medium, and tight shots. By varying the lenses we use and the types of shots we make, we get exponentially more opportunities to engage with the curiosity of our audience. Capturing facial expressions is one of the most powerful storytelling tools that photographers have. Documentary photographers do this well by being patient and attentive. A more subtle way to communicate a story with photography uses body language. One of the superpowers with still photography is its ability to stop time and freeze action. But we can do more with action and movement with photography beyond just freezing it. We can pan with a moving subject and let the foreground and subject blur, or we can let our subject create the motion blur. It can be subtle or jarring. We can organize graphical elements within a frame to suggest movement, or we can give subjects lead room to suggest motion. Psychological studies show that our brains associate different colors with different emotions. Warm colors, reds, oranges, and yellows, with excitement and even anger at times, and cool colors, blues, and greens, with peace and tranquility. Are we at the beach or in the mountains? In the city or on the farm? Or maybe we're in a cookie-cutter neighborhood in the suburbs. Our setting is normally communicated with a scene setting shot, detail shots, and in the backgrounds and foregrounds where our subjects live. Light has three main characteristics: intensity, color, and quality. And while intensity and color might be obvious to define, quality refers to how hard or soft the light is. Soft light of low intensity will create a different mood than a light source that's hard and bright. Light, if we're given a peek outside, can also communicate if our story takes place during the day or the night. So, what's the number one way that I think most photographers can improve on their visual storytelling? Edit tighter. We only need our best shot from each important part of the story. For example, and to put it bluntly, we don't want a bunch of different angles of the same shit, and we don't want the same angles of the same shit either. Your job is to pick the best photos that you make. This is part of being a photographer. What we're looking for is one photo for each important part of the story we're trying to tell, not 3 or 30. Beware of your ego here. Ask yourself if you're trying to tell a story or show off the photography skills that you've learned this year. If you want to tell a story, kill your darlings. If you ever struggle to select the best photos to share, I've made a video about what makes a great photograph here.